Hey everyone, Steve the Canadian Photo Guy here. Today we'll be going through Lightroom and some of the very basics of Lightroom and how to get started using it. I've had a lot of people asking me questions about is Lightroom right for them? What do you do with Lightroom? So I thought I'd go through some of the very basics and just explain what Lightroom does for you and your images. So to start with, we'll open up Lightroom. Obviously, the first thing that we have to do is import images into Lightroom. Now you have two ways of doing this. One, you can insert a media card into your card reader, which I will do right now just to show you what happens. We will get a dialog box that opens up for importing images. Now you see all the images that are sitting on your card, and by default it'll import into your pictures folder. You can, however, select other destinations off on the side. In my case, I would choose photo storage, and it will import the images into my photo storage drive. Now, personally, I tend to not use this way of doing things, so I'm going to show you the other option. I'll just cancel it to this. Alright, so the other option is just to select import. This is assuming that you have already imported your images into your hard drive at a predetermined destination of your choice. So we'll select the import button. This opens up your hard drive. Again, I have the photo storage working drive down here. I will select that, and I'm going to go down to this particular one here, and it opens up the images that are in that folder. Now there's a couple images I know I don't want to import, so you can deselect those just to make sure they aren't imported into Lightroom. Off to the side, you want to make sure that you have do not import suspected duplicates. You don't want to have duplicated files in your Lightroom gallery, so checking that off, make sure that that happens. During the import, you can apply certain developed settings or presets, if you will. Now, we'll go into this in future episodes into more detail, but this is basically a preset that I know I want to apply to all my images. And so I've got a preset for nature. I have another preset that I use for portraits, just handles skin tones a little better. But you can select different presets depending on what you're doing. So once you have your images selected, we'll click on import. And you'll notice all these files will start to import into Lightroom. So now that we have all our images in Lightroom, we'll go through some of the very basics. First off, we're in our library area. The library is basically the general viewing area for your images. This is also where you can enter keywords. Keywords are great for helping to identify and find images later. Put as many keywords as you can into here. Putting the keywords in, the keywords aren't visible anywhere on the file. They're stored within the file, but they do work fantastic for sorting and finding images after the fact. I'll select a couple of images here. We've got a lot of clouds in here. A storm. And we'll call it sky as well. So these are keywords that I've entered. Hitting enter to that will commit those keywords to these images. So now, if I click down here, you notice that I have no keywords. You click on this image, you have these keywords stored within that file. When you export the images afterwards, these keywords travel along with these images. Again, fantastic for organizing later. Scrolling down to the bottom of this, you have your metadata. This will give you all the information about the image, how it was shot, what camera, what lens, exposures, etc., etc. It's good for looking back on and getting information later. Moving on from here, we will go into the develop module. Now in the develop module is where you're going to do all of your work. So to start with, we will go through some of the different settings that we have down the side. Our basic area is where the bulk of the work will be done. This is where you adjust color temperature, make it warmer, make it cooler, your exposure to increase brightness, decrease brightness would all be done through here. Your contrast, you can run that through here. Highlights and shadows, either brightening highlights or darkening highlights, and brightening just shadows is done in here. Your white level, your black level. Clarity would just add some pop and drama to some of the images. A dehaze feature, which is great for, say, a hazy or dusty atmosphere. It can really clean the image up using this. And vibrance and saturation to increase or desaturate the color in the image. The bulk of the work will be done right in here. Going down from there, we have our tone curve. The tone curve for myself personally, I rarely use. You can use it to create some added contrast by pulling down shadows, bringing up highlights. You can create this tone curve from there. Again, like I say, for myself personally, I don't use this a whole lot. I should just mention, you notice we have numbers sitting here now. Double clicking on any of these will automatically zero out or reset the slider. Going down further, you have your HSL, your hue, saturation, and luminance. You can use this to selectively adjust the hue or color, the saturation, or the brightness of a certain color channel within your image. Going down from there, you have split toning. Split toning allows you to adjust the tone of your highlights and your shadows independently. So it's not a global setting over the whole picture. It does only the highlights, only the shadows. Going into the details section. Now, this is an area you see sharpening. So many people will look at sharpening, especially when they're starting out, will see sharpening and think, yes, I want to sharpen this image. I want the sharpest image possible. Don't. Please don't do that. Over sharpening an image can totally destroy an image file. You create artifacts, you create grain and noise. Do not over sharpen. I cannot stress that enough. Over sharpening will ruin your image. Noise reduction. If you're shooting at a higher ISO, you can use the noise reduction to reduce some of the noise. Again, you have to be careful with that, because if you go too far with it, you will start to lose detail, and you want to keep some of the fine details as well. Personally, I'd always rather have a little bit of noise than try to smooth everything over and have this fake looking digital image. Same goes for sharpening. If you over sharpen, it looks like a digital image. Over sharpening, over processing the noise reduction, both things that can really do bad things to your files. So again, future episodes we will be going into more detail, showing exactly what the sharpening does, what the noise reduction does. I'm just going through some of the basics right now and telling you, be careful, do not do too much with either one of these. The lens correction, I turned both of these on for the lens correction. What this does is it adjusts the image and corrects for the specific lens that you have on that camera. Again, really nice to have. We'll go through a bit more detail on this in the future. You can also manually correct all of these things, but using the profile and enabling the profile corrections is a fantastic thing to have. The transform tool. Transform, for the most part, again, you probably aren't going to need this or use this. It can work great for architecture or interior shots, and if you're shooting with a really wide angle lens, you can get distortions where vertical lines will tend to lean backwards and look like the image or the building is sort of falling over backwards. You can use this to correct that. Again, for the most part, your average image, you're not going to need this. It can be useful though, so again, for the most part, you don't have to worry about this. The effects, this is to do the vignetting. If you want to really lighten or darken an image around the outside, I mean, there's varying degrees of this. You can change your midpoint. Again, for the most part, I don't touch this. I tend to like the images the way they are. You can also add grain into the image. I know I'm not talking about the grain at the bottom of the field here. I'm talking about noise. I'll zoom in here, so hopefully we can see this a bit better. Adding grain into this image, you can see all the noise or the grain. Again, I'm overemphasizing this for the sake of the video so you can see this. You can do this tastefully by adding a little bit of grain sometimes. Some images can benefit from that, especially black and white. But for the most part, you leave this stuff alone. Set it to 0, leave it off, and that's where you'll get the best results. And the very last thing is the calibration. Now, the calibration, this is something I ran through a long time ago to get the numbers that we have here. You're going to be getting a little pickier if you want to do these adjustments, but for the average person just getting started, don't worry about the calibration area. It's a more advanced tool to be using. So that's the basics of Lightroom. We will be going into more detail and giving examples and more advanced examples showing how you can take an image like this, into something like this using only Lightroom. There's some more advanced functions and gradient tools, brushes, etc., which are across the top of the screen here. Like I say, a bit more of an advanced area. We'll be going into that in future episodes. So if you'd like to see some of this, like and subscribe to our channel, and you will be notified when these new videos are launched. And yeah, I hope that helps you out, and I look forward to helping you in the future. If you have any questions, message us, contact us below, and we will be glad to help you. Thanks, and don't forget to subscribe, and we will talk soon. Take care.